Planet Eclipse Geo 3.5 video breakdown. Medusa. So first, we're gonna go over the bolt in the 3.5. So we're gonna slide that out. And so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna unscrew the can from the prop shaft. Take that out, and then we're gonna push the tip of the bolt through the can, and then you get your can, your bolt tip, and your prop shaft. So after taking the bolt apart, you're gonna apply a thin amount of grease on this back O-ring on your prop shaft. I then take the remaining grease on my fingertip, and I kind of just give it a nice thin coating along it. That's all you're really gonna do on the back of the prop shaft. At least in, my experience, that's all I've needed to do. Then I'm gonna take the can, same thing, a pretty small amount of lube on my fingers. I'm just gonna spin the can and just get it it's not too much. You don't wanna over grease it, but get a nice coating on it. And there's also a O-ring on the inside of the can that you wanna get as well. And what I do is I'll just put some on the tip of my finger. I'll put it in there and I kind of swipe my finger so the grease is just sitting right there. And then I'll put my finger in there and swipe it. And I'll probably do that a couple of times just to make sure that grease is nice and wet. Ring on the threads, which isn't like overly necessary, but I'll do it anyways. Just in case. And once that's done, you can move on to the bolt tip. And the same thing, very thin amount of grease. I just start right here. I literally just like massage it on to the bolt tip. And once that's done, that's all I do. Then I slide the bolt tip back into the can. I push it down on the table. Then I would just screw in the prop shaft into the can. Screw it in, make it nice and tight, and there you go. Run up on a track like a shot, Medusa. So how to maintain your eyes is you're gonna take your 1/16 Allen key, you're gonna undo the screw on the eye cover. Once that's removed, I like to just take a fingernail, or sometimes you can just lightly slap it and your eye cover will come off. So your eye cover, and what that's gonna leave you with, you're gonna see your eye wires right here, and you're gonna see your detent. Now typically what I like to do is I just stick my finger into the front of the gun, and you'll feel the detent on your finger and just kind of push up, and the detent will pop right out. And it's just this little black piece, a little nub, okay? Once that's removed, you can simply take your eyes, again using your fingernail or maybe the end of your Allen key, pull the eye wire back. Be careful as to not damage it. You want to be pretty gentle with your eye covers. Once that's removed, you can take a microfiber or Q-tips, anything like that, and get any of the excess paint out of these cracks or crevices, things like that. Generally around where the eye goes into the frame of the gun, you want to make sure that's free of paint. If you have any paint on the tip, like on the actual eye itself, very, very gently with a microfiber, rub the paint off the front side of the eye wire to make sure it's clear and you won't read any eye faults when you turn your gun on. All right, so that's how you're gonna do that. And to put it back together is really simple. You just make sure the eye wire's back in its slot. Just like sometimes it'll be a little cranky when you do it. The detent just goes back in. It doesn't matter, like it's not left or right or anything like that. You just make sure you line it up, kind of push it in there, and you're gonna grab your eye plate, your eye cover rather. You're gonna stick it back on there. Then using your 1/16 Allen key, you're just gonna screw that back in. Now, you don't wanna over torque this. You're not trying to, make it super tight. You're just kind of snugging it. So once it's snug, you're good to go. And then you just rinse and repeat on the other side to clean the other eye plate. Medusa. Regulator maintenance on the 3.5 is also super simple. You're going to take the air transfer pipe, which is this piece right here. It does spin counterclockwise or opposite of each other. So the main part of the tube spins to the left or down, and this front little part spins up or to the right. Unscrew those together at the same time. It will come apart just like that. and it'll pull right out, and we can set that to the side. I'll show you how to grease the O-rings on that after this. Then we're gonna pull this grip down. It's not gonna wanna come very easily, so you might have to give it a little bit of force, but it should pull right off. There we go. Now that that's off, we're gonna unscrew this part right here. This is the regulator itself. Oh, that would be tightening it. Sorry, my hands are slippery with that grease. And this is gonna unscrew. Once it's unscrewed, you're good to go for that. I'm gonna set that to the side. And then from here, you can unscrew this bottom part right here. It just unscrews. And that's off. Now there's no O-rings or anything in there. You won't really have to do any maintenance, but like if you ever get any paint in the bottom of the regulator, you can remove this and you can clean it off. This collar right here that the AT pipe goes into, you can just pull off. Now in here will be a couple of O-rings that you might wanna most definitely lube every single time you do regulator maintenance. But on the inside, you're just gonna flip it upside down. You're gonna slap it, and your piston, which is this, will come out, and your spring. Then from there, you're gonna take your, I do believe it is the 3/32 Allen key. You're gonna stick it into the bottom of the regulator, and you're gonna spin it. All right, so you're gonna finish unscrewing it. When you unscrew it, you're gonna kinda, you'll feel it give way, and then kinda push on inward, and then this will pull right out. And then that's all you gotta do. Now, this is just the housing, and it's completely empty. In here is where there's two small parts. You wanna be careful, don't lose any of these pieces. Sometimes this gets stuck, and you won't be able to, get it with your finger, especially because it'll be covered with grease. So what I like to do is I'll take a smaller Allen key, I'll stick it through the holes, kind of use it as some leverage, then I'll just spin, and it'll break apart. You remove the Allen keys, and you should be able to finish spinning it with your fingers. And then there's the two outer parts. Now inside will be this little rubber thing. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think it's like a cup seal or no, that's a spider. Just like that, it's gonna pop out. And underneath that is gonna be like a little white tabletop looking thing with a spring, a very tiny, tiny spring. Now you won't really have to do too much with that. You can keep the spring in there. Your spares kit will come with a replacement spring. The white, I just can't remember what it's called at the moment. A replacement one of those, and a replacement little top seal. So you can go ahead and put those back in. And when you're screwing it closed, you can just simply screw it in. Go. So when you're applying grease, there is a little tiny O-ring through the top part of this. What I like to do is grab the piston, and I like to cover just the tip of it, a little bit of grease. Once you get the tip covered, just stick it down in there and just kind of work it around a little bit, and that should apply grease to that little O-ring in there. Now once you've done that, you're gonna apply a thin layer of grease on the two O-rings on the outside. Once that's done, simply slide it back in with this part down. This is where you would adjust the chrono on your gun. You just slide that down, pop it in, and it'll fall straight in. Then you're gonna grab your 3/32 Allen key, you're gonna stick it back in there, and you're gonna rotate it as if you were chronoing your marker up. Yeah, up. So if you were trying to turn your velocity up, you would wanna go all the way out to where it's flush with the bottom. So just keep spinning. When it's flush with the bottom, I like to do, I play at a lower velocity, so I'll do a full spin and a half. All right, and then since you're already out here on the shell, you're gonna wanna go ahead and grease those 2 O-rings on the outside. So same thing, just a small thin amount of grease. You're not drowning it, just enough to get it wet. All right, once you've done that, you can take your collar and it's gonna pop right back over. If I had it on the right way, it's gonna pop on just like that. And then this little bottom part, you can screw right back in. Now, the piston, very simple as well. Make sure you clean off any remaining old grease, and you're gonna apply a thin layer on the O-ring right here. And then you're gonna pop your spring back on it, and you're just gonna slide it right in the top. All right? Now if it doesn't go in, I like to jiggle it, and it'll fall into place. And then simply screw it back onto the gun. Now when you're tightening it, you don't need to tighten it really tight. Just get it snug to where it stops spinning. You're gonna rotate your collar back in the forward position. You're gonna simply slide your grip straight back over. All right? Again, it might take a little bit of convincing. Once that's on there, we can move on to greasing the O-rings on the AT pipe. All right guys, so there are 2 O-rings, one on either side of the air transfer pipe. Same as the rest of the gun, nice thin coating, just enough to get it wet. Once you do that, simply put it back in. Now sometimes if you having trouble, just slide this thing to the side, go in, straighten it, line it back up, and then screw it back in. All right, there you go. Now that you've got your marker fully reassembled, you should know how to properly take care of your bolt assembly, your eyes, as well as your regulator. Hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.
Bitch, you killed it.
No,